Test, test, test.
Oh, hey, Gunther, what's up?
Fucking A. I found the button to push the talk. How y'all doing?
Good, man. It's been a while.
Fucking, I didn't even know which button to press, you know?
A little too long,
Just
huh?
mash them all, and eventually you hit the right one.
I feel like I'd do that right now if I got into Star Wars Galaxies and decided to actually try to fly right now. Because I left off still picking up the new controls and the new stick and everything.
How are you doing, Durgan?
Pretty good, brother. Pretty good. Can't complain. I just want to get
cool.
back in here and do something once in a while. Feel like
Yeah,
I mean, I've been maintaining stuff, but I feel like I've kind of been slacking too. I haven't been going on convoys and all the usual shit. So
Well, I think convoys changed, didn't they? They don't do it exactly.
oh, there's some
The way
minor
it was-
changes, but they basically have the same outcomes. They do the same stuff and get the same loot. It's they're just little minor adjustments. It wasn't that bad. All it does now is like you don't have one person that like tags and kites everything. It all does kind of swarm after one person at a time, but it breaks off pretty quickly and goes after somebody else. So it's a kind of a dynamic back and forth cat and mouse kind of game, where like one person gets aggro, they have to kind of run so that they don't die, and then everybody else kind of picks up and attacks what they need to. And then a lot of the things just don't all swarm at the same person either. So little differences, but it's not a huge thing.
Can you post your Twitch link?
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me put that in here. You don't have to watch it on Twitch, by the way. I'm gonna stream it right here on.
Well, I got a buddy that's interested in Star Wars
Oh,
Galaxies, and I
cool.
want to show him the.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see.
Did you get my message about don't use me as a reference, please?
Yeah. You don't have to worry about that. It's not just you. Like everyone makes mistakes reverse
You
engineering.
can.
That's
I have a project, and I want to ask you.
uh-huh.
Like, I want to re-engineer it. It's a Shield 7, and I'm going to give you all the stats, and you go yes or no. Like, don't do it. Don't do it.
I think that'll
do
make
it.
a good. Yeah, I think that'll make a good case example or something as we get a little further into this. I'm going to go through all the basics and all that first. But yeah, if you want to send that over to me on Discord DM, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I think it'd be great. If everybody's got any projects that they've got right now, we can do that and do kind of a full breakdown of exactly what we're looking at and what could be useful. I'm just going to give
Right.
everybody another minute or two here to jump on Twitch or jump on Discord. And then we'll get started.
Yeah, it's good hearing from you guys again.
For sure, man. Me too. Make sure my messages went out here. I'm just posting up on a couple other Discords, make sure they know what's going on. It might be handy to some people, so we'll see.
Could be. I think it will be.
Yeah, hopefully the way I'm approaching it is even if you've never done it before, you're not at that point in space yet, you'll at least have a grasp of how the RE system works and why it's important and why it's basically means what it does to the space game. Hopefully I'll hit all that pretty well. And if I'm not clear on anything, just let me know and I'll explain whatever.
See, I understand the RE parts are oftentimes much better
Yeah.
crafted. Like my backside has got crap in it right now,
Yeah.
as does my stuff on my ace. So
Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
also not also. I mean, yeah, they are better in a lot of ways, and they're better in regard of a lot of stats on a single part collectively being able to be better than what's uncrafted. But it's also the fact that most of the RE stuff that you're gonna work with is Korean asked me if I can REM a mining cap. Jesus. But it's the fact that they fit in between those classes as well. Like you've got the Mark IIIs at level 5, you've got the Mark IVs at level 7. Well, there's no in between there. You've got level 6, and that's where the RE steps in to fill in, and that's where you can get some of kind of the performance of level 7 type gear at the expense maybe reactor and mass wise of closer to level 5. So it's kind of an in between, and then when you get into the really high tiers of good loot parts that go into an RE project, then that's when you start getting really exceptional and you start outperforming, in a lot of cases outperforming the level above while costing less than the level below is what it can kind of come out to be.
I don't know about the cost, man. I just spent $12 million for a mask.
Jesus. You gotta look good doing it. I mean,
Oh, of course I strutted up to the bazaar and paid for it, but
Oh,
I-
mask. I'm sorry. I thought you said mask. I thought you were talking about like a. I thought you were talking like you bought a Mandalorian helmet or something.
Well, you know, he
If you can get a
He went
Mando helmet for 12
incognito.
mil, hook me up.
he went incognito. He didn't want anybody to know how much he was spending.
put it out there, dude.
Oh, I forgot to even turn my screen on here on Discord. All right, let me know if y'all can click that live button on Discord and get the video feed here.
Yeah, looks good.
All right,
How
cool.
in the hell do you do that?
What's that?
How the hell do you do that?
Okay, so on Discord, next to my name in the channel, there's a little button that says live.
Right.
Yeah, you click on that, and you should be able to open that stream. It'll show
With watch screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably about that time. Okay. Yeah. Alright, bye. Alright, sorry, did you get it working?
Roger Dodger.
Alright, cool. So, we'll get started, I guess. Today we're going to learn space reverse engineering, basically from start to finish. RE basics, how to break down stats and values on space parts, organize yourself so you don't fuck up and waste great parts on bad RE jobs, and we'll look a little bit at the valuation side, how to put a price on the stuff that you find. Information here is going to pertain mainly to, well, it'll pertain to any Star Wars Galaxies emulated server that has space working, which there are not many of. But I'm recording this on SWG Legends, so it's kind of with their specific loot mechanics and their market climate in mind. So we'll start with a reminder of what space reverse engineering really is. I'll go in here in my inventory, and I'm just going to zoom in on some... Oh, their zoom system is crap. I'm going to just zoom in on some reactors here. Space RE is creating a single super part by combining the raw looted parts of those of the same type and the same reverse engineering level. The total number of the parts you need is the same as the RE level. So 6 level 6 reactors, 10 level 10 guns, for example. We've actually got 7 level 7 reactors right here. You want parts that have one good stat in each category at least, and if necessary, some garbage extras to fulfill that count requirement. So the way it's going to work is, we're going to remember for a moment too that the RE level is what this is all about. You'll see this stat on everything that you loot in space, just about, this reverse engineering level 7 on this part. So I know this is a reactor, which all reactors have an armor and hit points, a mass, and a reactor generation rate. They all do the same job. If I put them in the ship, it provides power. That's what a reactor is. And all of these reactors have the same reverse engineering level. So if I were going to RE these, I would take these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, put them in the reverse engineering tool, right click it, and analyze component. Now what that's going to do is it's going to take all of the best stats. It's going to look through these and see, okay, armor hit points got a 477, a 497, 487, 471, 407, 477. Okay, 497 is the highest one, so I'm going to take that as the armor hit point stat. We're going to find the lowest mass in here. That's 18304. We just click through them, look at all the masses. The lowest mass in this bunch was the 16961, so it'll take that as the mass out of all these 7s. And then we're going to look, it's going to look for the highest reactor generation rate it can find, which is a 28957. These are all pretty garbage. These are around like 90th percentile. But this is what this tool would do regardless, is it's going to look at the 7 items that you're feeding it of reverse engineering level 7, and it's going to find the highest armor hit points, the lowest mass, the highest reactor generation rate, and it's going to crunch all those parts down into a single part that has all those best stats with a bonus added on top. So for those familiar with ground RE, you can forget what you think you know about this. Space RE has nothing to do with the ground. It really has no similarities at all, except that it deals with loot that you get in space instead of on the ground. And it is really all centered around this reverse engineering level stat right here. That is what tells you that a part is ready to be reverse engineered, or can be, if you decide you want to use it for that. If you take a look at one that's already been RE'd, you'll notice it does not have the reverse engineered stat. It has a certification level. Almost all parts do have a certification level, but those mean next to nothing to us unless we're dealing with crafted parts or parts that have already been RE'd. And really, it means nothing unless you're not Ace Pilot for some reason. So we're working exclusively with the RE stat right there. But it's not just about taking these random parts that you happen to have right now and throwing them together. The point of RE is to take a bunch of parts that are proportionally okay or great or incredible in their stats in relation to each other. You're making a single part that meets a specific level of quality in every stat. I wouldn't want to take a reactor with an awesome reactor generation rate and combine it with any of these parts to get its armor hit points and mass. It would be a complete waste of that part if I don't combine it with something that is similarly good. And I'm going to illustrate that here. What?
Sorry, man.
That's all right. Like, is he dying?
Dying.
I had vomit coming up. Sorry.
It's one of those burps that almost went wrong, huh? I love those. So we're going to use an analogy for this to explain what I mean by setting a quality threshold here. The analogy we're going to use is building a sports team. When you have a team, we'll say, for example, gridiron football here. It's a nice American pastime. You have different positions on a football team. Oh, wow. I don't want Phil. No Phil, thanks. So you'll have people that do different things, just the same way that different stats on a space component will make that component operate differently. You have a QB that's good at throwing a ball or running it, a TE or running back that's good at grabbing the ball close range and running with it, wide receivers that can go out, get open, they're skilled at getting open and can catch the ball, offensive linemen that can defend the quarterback. They all have a role on the field, and they're very specialized. You don't generally take someone on a football field that is specialized in one position and put them in another. And you don't build a team with, one good player in one position and a bunch of randoms in another. And to illustrate that, this is a good example for Space RE because it kind of goes back to the selectivity process. If we have a high school right here like this, and they decide they want to put a football team together, they're going to go through their hundreds or thousands of students or whatever here and hold tryouts. And let's say for the sake of the example, we're going to say every student in this school wants to try out for the football team. Well, they're not all going to make the football team. We're going to have about 95% of them that are complete garbage at it. And they're going to stay back there and go to their classes and do their other extracurricular activities. But we're going to take this top 5% that we found that have some aptitude, some understanding of the game, and some athletic ability. And we're going to bring them down here, and we're going to say, all right, y'all made the cut. You're in the top 95th percentile, the top 5%. That's an important number to understand here, so I'm going to kind of draw this out. We've got this. Draw a line there. Fill this in. I'm faster than paint than this normally. All right, so we've got 95% of people that are not into this. It's not working for them. They're not going to play football. And we got the top 5% that are. And how good they are within that top 5%, we don't really know. This is high school. We're just kind of collecting them right now and seeing what they're capable of. So let me go ahead and label this too. We're gonna call this our 95th. Now, once you go up to low division or high division in colleges or universities, it becomes a little more selective. Now we've got people that are coming from high schools that have been playing the game. They kind of know what they're doing, and they're going to be competing for spots on college or university level teams. And they're not going to just take any 95th percentile guy that comes out of high school. They're going to be looking for probably the top 97%, maybe the top 98% if it's a big popular school that makes a lot of money on its football program. They're going to be a lot more selective on here. And this is the first stage, too, where there's going to be value attached to these students, these players. At high school level, you might get some meals. If you're lucky, you'll get a ride to your away games. If you're, depending on what the school's like, you might get some sponsored equipment, whatever. You're not getting paid to play here. You're doing it for the love of the game or whatever the hell motivational crap coaches spew at their students to get them to play well. And that's really all there is to it. But when you go to college and university level, there's something at stake. You're expected to be a good student there as well, and they're paying your way there. So you've got, we're going to put 95th percentile. That's a percentile of the quality of players we're looking at. And we're going to put a $0 here at high school level. They're really getting no money for what they do. But when you go up to college level, you might be looking at a good 40 grand, essentially a paid education there. Higher end school, it might be like 150 grand. So there is some actual value with this now, because now you're getting, you know, the product that they sell, which is a good education, plus all these little extra kickbacks that we know they're giving them under the table. So there is, so there is actual value attached to the players once they go up to these levels. Once they demonstrate that they can perform higher than just the top 95th percentile or the 95th percentile, when they show that they're doing better than that, then they start to go up in value. And by the time you get up to the NFL, you know, you're going into the millions. You're going into, I'm going to put 20 million on this just for the hell of it.
What's that for the cost of parts?
Maybe five. What's that?
Is that for the cost of parts?
Yeah, basically, that's what we're doing. We're pretending that these people, these players, are loot parts. Because what we're doing, essentially, when we're making an RE part, we're forming a team. We are getting a bunch of parts that are on the same level as each other so that they operate well together as a unit, filling each slot with somebody that's good at each particular thing and expecting them to operate at a certain level. Now, if we put a high school team together, would we expect that high school level team to perform as well as like a high division university team? Absolutely not. Different age group, different skill bracket, everything's completely different. And those universities are out there going out of pocket to try and entice these players to join them. They don't perform at the same level, and that's fine. If we're on a zero budget and we just want to build a high school football team, we're not looking for high-end 98th, 99th percentile players. We're just looking to recruit from the local pool of students there, and we'll take the top 5% we find. That's where that's where the start of your looting process and your sorting process comes in. So by the time you get up to professional tier, we'll call it the NFL there, we're going to say this is 99th percentile. This is the top 1% of football players. They make it to the NFL, and now they are worth millions, multiple millions in some cases. And we'll say there's a tiny little tier above that called All-Star that in space parts we call unicorns. Unicrons. Yeah, maybe I can spell. And this is greater than the 99th percentile. That is 1 in a million parts. And there are not many of them, but you don't need that many of them to make a couple All-Star teams and put them together for an exhibition play, right? So, just to recap, we look at this entire range of stuff here, from high school, college div, high div, professional, and all-star, and all of that is squished into this tiny top 5% right here. And that's the key thing to remember about space loot, is that 95% of it, just about, that you get will be garbage. It's going to be thrown away, it's going to be vendored off. It's just a question of what you do to select that top 5%. All right, so take a break here. Y'all have any questions so far?
I do.
What's that?
So let's say you aim for 95, or even better yet, 98.
Okay.
Versus cost. Do you know what I mean?
I think you might have cut off there. What did you say?
Okay, I said, so you get a 95% part. Better yet, 98% part.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Are we dickering around about 2%? Or
Absolutely
accuracy
are.
Accuracy of using your joystick? So cost seems to lose its valid. You see?
I still think I might be losing parts of what you're saying. You're saying that as you go up 1 or 2% in quality into like the 98th or 99th percentile, that the cost increases drastically.
Yes, and
Right.
also, is it worth, like, how much maneuverability do you have innately with the controls? 2% versus,
That's hard to say. I mean, that's kind of outside the scope, really. As far as what you're capable of doing with the controls, it depends. And it's one of those things like, if you are playing at that high of a level, then yeah, that 1% might actually make a major difference to you. It's one of those things that it can tend to add up over time. If you are... we'll use the convoy example. If you're clearing convoys at a rate of, like, 1 every 3 minutes, so you're clearing 20 an hour, versus having, a couple percent less damage on your guns to where it's taking you 3.5 or 4 minutes instead, and you're only clearing 17, 18 an hour, then yeah, technically speaking, that time is money, and you are, in the end, gaining more for the time that you spend in it by having a higher damage gun, even if it's by a couple of percent. And that's really what it's all about, is min-maxing and improving your build to the point that you are improving your chances of moving along more quickly and getting more loot back for the same amount of time that you're putting in.
I have a question too when you get a chance. When you say like 95 percentile plus, are you saying that for each of the components? Like I just need 95 of one?
95 of one component in one stat category.
In one stat, okay, yeah. So,
for example,
then you put all those together to get something that has 95 plus in everything.
In everything, exactly. Yep. So if I were to go back, let me go back and reopen this. Galaxy's picked today to start logging me out when I AFK, I guess. It never happens.
How do you know the percentiles?
That's what we're going to get into next, the tools that you have to use to get into this. So if I were to open this up here and look at these reactors here, I would only need to have 3 of these to cover all the main stats. Armor and hit points are really one stat, even though it reads as 2 different numbers. So I would need, let's say, this one, 497. I already looked at them. This is the highest one out of all that. That would be the one that the tool would pick for its armor and hit point stat. It would pick this one at 16,961 mass for the mass, and it would pick this one at 28,957 for the reactor gen. These are the only 3 that are actually contributing stats to the project, because there are only 3 stats to get stats from.
So you can just have trash in the other ones?
That's exactly what these are. These 7s are all trash. I would not use these as a main stat in an ERE build. So
you went through STC, right?
Yep. I'm gonna get to STC here. I just need to scroll through my stuff here and make sure I actually...
Well, how would he know that those things are trash, versus...
Exactly. That's what we're gonna... Yeah, that's what we're gonna get to next.
But like, so you're saying you just need to have the team of like each of the stat points, like the others are just
exactly
can be whatever.
Exactly. The others are just a function of what this reverse engineering level is. The reverse engineering level on these reactors is all 7. So that means we need a count of 7 reactors to go in there to RE. We can't do a level 7 reactor with 6 of them. It has to be a count of 7. So you would have 3 good ones, 1 with a good stat in each category, and then 4 trash.
And does this like correspond with your pilot level?
Yes and no. Technically, the certification level is restricted to whatever you have unlocked as a pilot so far. Realistically, by the time you're looking at doing any reverse engineering anyway, you should already be well past ace. So once you're ace, none of the equipment certification level is relevant. It's relevant to identifying it and getting kind of a ballpark of, okay, this is level 7, this is the mass that I expect its range to be in, this is the generation range that I expect it to be in, and knowing kind of, you start to get a feel for what you can fit into a given ship build. But other than that, it's not really relevant once you hit ace. The certification, like, you've got it unlocked, then you ought to have 1 ace privateer pilot that you keep as your main and never, drop or anything again. So you basically, he's your tool. You take him out to the field and get shit done. So let me just make sure I've got, let's see, start top 5%. All right. So yeah, what I was saying was the difference in that top 5% can be huge. So we're not gonna skip any stats on an RE project. This is just something to get in the mindset of right now. We would never put together an RE7 that was missing a good mass or missing a good generation rate. Not even missing a good armor or hit points, arguably. I would say if you're putting the time and effort into doing a reverse engineering project, you need to go all the way. You need to check every box. Dot every I, cross every T.
And also, is there like a certain part where you start getting these higher level parts?
No,
or is it just
actually,
random?
it's the level of the part is generally tied to the tier of the NPC dropping it. So like a tier 4 or tier 5 will drop everything from like level 5 up to 10, roughly.
Okay. So as like a beginner pilot, I'm not going to be finding anything good.
Actually,
for a while.
you will, because there are some lower level parts that are kind of they fill in a slot in a certain build. So anytime that we have someone new that's just leveling pilot for the first time, one of the first things I tell them is don't sell off your junk loot, don't delete it, put it aside in a house, keep it in some bags, and once you're ace, we're going to go back through all that loot and we're going to sort it and identify it. So let me go ahead and I'll get into the STC side of this, where we start to identify exactly what's good and what's not and what we want to pay attention to. So we actually do this in 2 stages. The way I teach it here is sorting your loot in 2 stages. There's one is triage, and then the next is going piece by piece using STC. Let me just open this link here. Here we go.
I will. I got something. You can loot higher tier stuff than what I've looted at level 10. It's really random.
Yeah.
Killing tier 1s.
Mhm.
So you can loot stuff of any tier. It just, if you're going after tier 10s, killing tier 1s is not the way to do it.
Exactly.
But it can be done. It's just so random. It's
Yeah.
Okay, so like I may have something that may be worth it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me get through this in the STC file, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at your parts, and we'll see.
Oh no, I was just saying like it's possible to get something good while I'm leveling up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
The way
That makes
the way
sense.
that it drops is you've got its level, and you got kind of a base stat for that level and that named type of part, and then you've got a standard deviation, and that's the range within which those parts or those stats are randomly generated. So you have a chance for any part of any level that's dropped by any NPC to just swing wildly up the standard deviation and give you a really good stat. It can happen anywhere at any time. There are some places that are better for certain parts than others because they have a higher drop percentage of a certain type of part of a certain level, and we've identified some of those, the community has. But yeah, you could get something good theoretically.
But grinding to ace may get you some stuff.
Yeah. We've had people easily in the tens of millions of credits in value find stuff that they just dashed away in the pack as they were leveling.
Million
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Gunther got some stuff as he was leveling. So
It was just accidentally on a convoy, but it came out.
So I've got this chart right here that I've got on screen. This is a simplified version, actually, of another chart the community made that shows, it gives a full breakdown of every part type, and it shows a bunch of kind of baseline threshold to look at in individual stats. The problem I have with that chart is that it doesn't really adapt with, like, I don't think it's matched up to STC, and it doesn't really adapt with what the community's doing. It could kind of wildly sway. Ultimately, they're kind of opinions on there, and it's really a lot to take in if you're a new pilot learning this for the first time. So I made this simplified triage chart, and while you can get good part drops just about any time, anywhere, there are certain combinations of level and part type that are never going to be valuable or useful. And that's what this is to help you identify. If it's green, it's something you can potentially look at to, check the stats against STC and find out if it's good or not. If it's red, you can throw that in a trash bag and take it to the vendor, point blank. There's no question about it. There will never be a good level 9 or level 10 reactor, at least not currently. There's never going to be a good 9 engine. None of the level 1 through 5 engines are going to be good. Same with shields. Any of these red boxes in here, these you can just, if you pull up an item and you see it's that type and that level, or RE level, you can immediately know that you're safe to trash it. If it's in green, that's where we go to the next step. And the next step is a file called STC. I forget what it even stands for at this point. It's been so long. But someone in the community's put this together. They updated it as of last year. And what it is a text file. You'll notice I'm in my Star Wars Galaxies folder. This is the folder I run the game from. I've dropped it in here. This is an old one. That one actually, I think, goes back to the live days, if I'm remembering right. But this stc.txt is current. If you ever need this, I believe it's pinned. It's pinned on Black Flag somewhere, and I think it might be pinned on the official Discord in the Space Channel. And if you were to open this STC file up, what you're going to see is a whole bunch of garbage. It doesn't make much sense looking at it out of game here, but it's not designed to be looked at out of game. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the game. Again, very important to make sure you've got this in your game folder so that this knows where to find it. And we're going to type /load stc.txt. It's going to say alias is loaded from stc. And from here, if we go back to this, I'm going to kill these fucking dogs. Can y'all hear them barking?
Of course.
A little bit.
Yeah, oh, hell yeah.
God.
I was going to put the headphones on my dog just to see what they're saying.
Oh, holy shit, it's a Zilza. I haven't seen you in months? A year? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, man. How are you?
So if we were to go back here, what I have populated in these boxes for convenience sake is the command that you'll use once these aliases in STC are loaded to get a report and be able to examine this part. What we're looking for, we're going to take, let's see, we'll take one of these R7s as an example. So on this chart, R7s are good down to the 90th percentile. And this is due to a little fluke in this community here. 95th percentile kind of just, they got under really high demand because they're really useful. So that kind of dictated their value going way up and people actually finding some use in the 90th percentile as well. So one little weird exception, and there's a bunch of them in Space RE. That's okay, we're going to learn those one at a time. So we would be looking at R7, and what you do is you type the first letter of the part type you're looking for, so R for reactor, and then 7 for the level. This will give me a 95th percentile report. This is what would each of these stats on this part need to break in order to qualify for being part of the top 5%. The top 5% of level 7 reactors will have at least 507 hit points in armor and mass. They'll have no more than 12,958 points of mass. They'll have no less than 30,672 points of reactor generation rate. Now, it's not expecting any one part to have all these at the same time. It's saying if you come across a part that has any one of these stats better than the number here, then you found a keeper. And actually, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go and jump down a stage here to the 90th percentile, and we'll see that that's gone down significantly from 95th. So for a 90th percentile, you can just break 498 armor and hit points. You can be as high as 15,100 mass. You can be as low as 29,913 generation rate. Does that make sense? At all? This is where people get hung up on, because this is the complicated part. And the same thing works for /W. Use 0 if you're going to do 10. So W0. And we tend to, a lot of people in the space community tend to refer to parts by their STC command. So like they go to post one for sale or to post one for a price check, and they'll say, you know, S8 or W0, W8, S6, you know, R6. They'll refer to them by that command in STC. So that's one thing to get used to. It's just a useful shorthand. Let's see. Where were we here? So basically, you go through, you can have a whole inventory full of loot. You go through them one at a time. And the more you do it, the faster you get at it. It's going to be slow and miserable at first. It's just a matter of getting the reps in and getting used to the process and giving yourself a process that makes it easy for you to go through these things, sort them, and immediately put them where they need to go. So I'm going to show off my RE house here for a moment. Some of y'all have been in here and seen this. What we've got is I've got a general drop-off right here if I need to just clear up some inventory space. I've got a crate that I take certain parts over to a weapons lab. We actually have separate RE houses for weapon 8s and weapon 10s to set our members up. So if I get 95th percentile type weapons there, I tend to throw them in that crate and then ship them over there. I have crates to throw other trash, collection items, or convoy rewards like furniture and so forth. But the rest of these are all containers in the wall here. And a lot of people do this with backpacks. Some of them will do with furniture pieces, so on. Some people use vendors. I think vendors are really risky because if you leave them for too long, for some reason, they disappear. But you'll notice I've got all of these tagged by name. A2 mass, A3 mass, A4 mass, A2 armor, A3 armor, A4 armor. These are armors up through level 4, and I've got a crate for holding just the ones that have a good mass stat, and a crate for holding just the ones that have a good armor stat. If I go over here to the engines, I've got E6s, E8s, and E10s, and I've got them divided up by, this is a reactor energy drain. This is where I'd put the ones with good mass, good pitch, yaw, roll, top speed, and then some filler and armor ones. So that when it's time to go ahead and put an RE part together for somebody, let's say I've got a new pilot starting out, and we're gonna get them a level 10 engine for, let's say, a Vaxi build for PvP or something. I can come in here and I've got these sorted up that these all beat the 95th percentile in top speed. So I can come in here almost like an assembly line and grab just the parts that I need to put an RE project together, throw it in the reverse engineering tool, and crank out a part right away. And it's made easy because I bring all my stuff home from the convoys, open up the crates, let them fill my inventory up, and then I look at it one part at a time. I'll say that's an R7. Do I want to keep this for the armor hit points? No. Do I want to keep it for the mass? No. Do I want to keep this for the generation rate? No. What am I going to do with it? I'll either keep it in my inventory for selling later, or in this case, on these tables, I actually keep some filler parts, because the R7s, you only need 3 of the good ones, like we were talking about earlier. And so I'll keep some fillers on hand just for the next time I need to RE one of those. So I usually throw it on a table there or something. So how you organize this is up to you, but the key thing is that you want to be able to organize these by the stat that makes that part good, the level and the type it is, and probably something to keep the parts in that are a cut above in some way. This is a 99th percentile. I think it might be top speed. That might be good on that one. Yeah. So it's all about kind of keeping yourself organized from the get-go. If you're going to get into reverse engineering, I highly recommend getting a large house or guild hall or bunker set up somewhere. Get all the structure upgrades for it so that you increase the amount of items you can hold in there. This one, I believe, I'm holding about 1450 capacity, and I'm usually within a couple hundred of that, depending on how many parts I've reverse engineered. But if you have a one-stop place where you know where all your crates are for each level and each quality type, and you can just stash them away here, that makes life very easy for when you want to come in here and pick the best stuff you've got and start building a project. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As far as
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, as far as setting up for a character for reverse engineering, this is actually one of the easiest things to do in the game. All you need is a level 90 structures trader, which is, again, one of the easiest things to grind in the game. You can go buy a structure grind kit for less than $500,000, I want to say, and it contains all the resources that you need to create a macro and build certain things for up to a certain level, and then build a bunch more of something else, so on, so on. It takes about an hour at worst, and that basically gets you up to level 90 on a crafter tune. And then once you've done that, the only thing that you need for space reverse engineering, you don't need gear, foods, buffs, nothing like that. All you need is this box right here, deconstruction techniques. It takes 2 points, literally all you need. And the handy thing about this is that on the way down there to get that box unlocked, you've got some pretty handy stuff over here, actually. You've got 4 points you can put in business accounting that increases the number of vendors you can have, the vendor item limit, and another couple extra vendors, and then the sampling stuff if you want that as well. So you'll notice I've got 26 points available here that I'm just using for nothing else. You unlock all this good stuff with the vendors, and that's handy because playing the space game, if you're going to really play it to its fullest, you're going to want a vendor of your own at some point. I've got a few upstairs here. They're great for being able to just post up items for sale that others can vendor search on, which we're going to get into a little bit later, as well, as far as learning the value of your parts. But it's also good, like if you happen to make a deal with someone over on Black Flag Discord or in the Space Channel on Legends Official Discord. They post up an item for sale, you want it, you say, okay, done, I'll give you this price for it. You can give them your vendor location, they can come drop it off, and then next time you're able to log on, it's there waiting for you. You just pay whatever price that you agreed to. So having a vendor of your own is very handy, and it's a nice side thing for this character class, since basically all you're using it for is those 2 points in deconstruction, because that's where your bonus comes from when you reverse engineer. Let's see what else I had in my notes here.
What do the bonuses consist of?
The bonuses are a flat percentage depending on the level that they add. So, for example, let's take our. Actually, I can show you.
Could
right
it
now.
boost something a percentile?
By the time you're going to reverse engineer, you're not really worried about the percentile anymore. The percentile refers only to the raw stats of the loot. Once you're done reverse engineering something, it's done. That's it. But let me show you this here. This is one of the. There's several tools everyone should have. One is STC. Another is this chart, or the other one like it that they've got on Black Flag that shows you kind of by level and part type what's good. And then there's this ship loadout utility, and we use this a lot in the guild for building and sharing our ship builds, because it's easy to screenshot a single shot of your entire ship, whereas you can't do that in game. But up here under tools, they've got this nice little RE calculator, and you can pick the component level. So we'll do a level 7. The component type is going to be a reactor, and it gives you the 3 fields that you need to fill in what your stats would be. So let's take a look at this here. We'll go ahead and input this one that we kind of theory crafted already. We're going to give it the 497 armor that it's got in there. I'm just going to round. No problem with doing that in a case like this. We're going to take the mass of 16,961. And we're going to take the generation of 28,957. So you plug the numbers in there that you've got from your collection of parts, and you calculate it. And you'll see it comes up to about, I forget the exact number on this, I need to look it up. It starts around 2%, I think, and goes up to about 9%. Or, wait, 7, 8, or 9% for the highest level stuff. That's posted on Black Flag somewhere as well, I think. I can't remember the exact amount, but it's significant. And
it's 7% for the.
It's 7% for this one?
For level 10s.
Oh, for level 10s, okay. So yeah, you can see it cut, about a good over 800 points off of this mass here. Increased our generation up to, over 30,000. So, I mean, this is not ideal. This is only a 90th percentile part, but based on what it's capable of, this is good enough to power a starting, crate build. And that's what I keep them around for, because they're not worth a whole lot, but they're enough to get someone started and give them the platform that they need to go and start looting their own goods and making better equipment for themselves. And we can plug in just about anything in here. And this is really, when you create a project, no matter what you're doing, you need to be in this window every time. You should not put anything into a reverse engineering tool until you have run every stat through this thing and you are 100% certain what's going to come out of the other end. And then you need to double and triple check each stat in those parts. I mean, one trick that I use is when I'm in here, you can drag and rearrange these parts within your inventory, kind of shuffle their position. I'll make sure that I've got them lined up in the order of the stats so that when I go to put them in the tool, I can check them one at a time. I say, oh, okay, there's my armor hit points, that's going in. Here's my mass, that's going in. There's my reactor gen that's going in. And then my 4 trash, I'll throw the 4 trash in there. And I do it in order, that way I know 100% that I've put every part in there for every stat that I intended to cover, and I've gone against, the... Oh, okay, I did keep it there, good. And I've gone against this list and checked each one of those off and said, okay, they're all in there, I'm good to go now. It's very important to pay attention to what you're doing in sorting and in actually doing the reverse engineer. If you throw the wrong parts in a tool, or you have like some high-end reverse engineering project and you misplace one part, or your finger slips, it goes somewhere else in your inventory, it's not in the tool, and you hit that button, you are fucked. CSRs will not help you. There's nothing they're going to do to undo that part for you. You screwed it up yourself. Reverse engineering and sorting your parts is not something you do when you're lit. You don't do it when you're tired and your eyes are drooping and you're about to fall asleep. You need to be on when you're playing this side of the game. You would think that it was the opposite. You would think it's when you're out there looting and you're actually flying the ship and shooting at stuff that you need to be on. And it's kind of true to an extent. You need to be paying attention there. But this is where the money comes from. This is where your good parts come from. If you fuck something up here because you weren't paying attention, sorry. And plenty of people do. And that's, unfortunately, that's the hard road a lot of people go through with reverse engineering, and learning what's good and what's not good is beating their head against the wall and going through phases where they're not paying attention and they slid the wrong thing into the wrong place and screwed up something and lost a lot of money. That's what I want you guys to avoid. I want you to be able to avoid that by paying attention and understanding this stuff from the get-go. Knowing that when you're putting a project together, you need to check all this stuff out. You need to check all of the stats that come up in a project like this. For example, this is good right here because I've got all those stats in the reverse engineering tool. I can line this up right down here with the STC report in chat and say, well, we're going to use the 90% one since that's what this is being built for.
I will say on the sorting note, keep an eye out for double stat items.
Yes.
Within 2 weeks ago, I burned a 98 mass 10 gun on a starter gun project, not realizing it was a double stat.
Nice. That is a perfect example, actually, and I was going to hit on that at some point. I'm glad you reminded me. There are such thing as double stat items, and on the lower level, the lower reverse engineering level parts, they're particularly important. Because if you're doing, let's say, a Weapon 6 project, there are... How many stats are there on a weapon here? We got 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 stats on a weapon. So you've got 9 stats to cover, and you've only got 6 parts you can put in. If you want to cover more than 6 stats, you have to have parts in there that hit more than one of those stats. They have to have more than one good stat on a couple of them. And it gets interesting trying to find those, because you'll find something this is why you want to check every stat on a part, because you'll run into one stat like a 95% something, min damage or something. Say, okay, cool, it's a 95th min damage. Keep checking the rest. You might have a 98th somewhere further down the list. And if you do, then that's not a 98th, 95th dual stat part. That's a 98th part, because you should never combine anything that has that big of a percentile gap. More than 1%, at least in the lower ranks, is kind of okay, but once you go up to 97th and above, absolutely not. Make sure all those things... I want to go back to the football example here. I don't know if all y'all were here for this or not. If you were building a high school football team, and you've got next to no money to put into it, and you're just dealing with, students that want to play, would you go out of your way and drop $20 million on a 99th percentile professional NFL player to put on your bullshit high school football team? Never. Complete waste of money. You could buy a dozen high schools for that price. Similarly, if you were putting together a professional NFL team and you want them to go to the Super Bowl, and you've got a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars and you're throwing millions left and right to people, would you build your team around a quarterback that came from, Uncle Bob's bumfuck Iowa high school? You would never do that. Because even despite it's one thing that you're looking at a difference in the values here, but you're also looking at a difference in quality. Someone that's, a top 5% player that's going to play well at high school is not going to play the same in the NFL. You would not combine players of that drastically different of qualities into the same team and expect good results. And that's what I really want to stress in that is pick the percentile of the project you are going to do. If you have one really good part you've gotten, some 97th or 98th percentile single part, that's all you've got so far, and you want to build a project, stop being in a hurry. People have reverse engineering projects that they have sat on for literal years. Months is not unheard of. Months is not uncommon at all. Be prepared to sit on your reverse engineering projects and wait. They are slow burn, steady labors of love. So, understand? I'm going overboard explaining this. I know this is like over the top, probably the way I'm coming off, but it needs to be because this is the most important. This is the most important part of the RE game, is to be patient and pay attention. If you find you find that one really good 98th percentile part and you decide you want to build a project around it, that's great. Sit on it until you have a 98th percentile part for every other stat in that entire project, and then pull the trigger. Don't do it. Don't cut corners. If you think I'm almost there, I've been waiting so long, I'm just going to throw a couple vendor trash parts in here and we'll call it good. It's kind of good anyway. The mass is low, the min damage is high, it'll be good enough. No, you're wasting your time and money. You've wasted however long you've waited around for that already, and you're selling the final product short. It's not going to be as good as one that you waited another week or two and collected the parts you needed for. And if you do this regularly...
More than a week or two.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
More than a week or two.
Months. I'm telling you, months.
Yeah, but hold on. Hold on to it. It's a big gap. Exactly. You know what I mean? That difference is a big gap, so it's worth holding on to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's people in the space community here that have literally been sitting on projects for years, waiting for one special all-star unicorn to drop that suits their project exactly. And, these people have millions, billions in credits piled up, waiting for someone else to have it drop for them, and for that person to drop it into the the price check over on Black Flag. They're looking, they are watching and waiting, and they are happy to throw money at someone that happens to win the lottery and get that drop. So check your parts thoroughly, check them slowly. You'll get faster at it as you go, I promise. It seems slow and tedious at first. You'll get faster and better at it, but it never precludes the requirement on you to be careful and take your time when you know you're moving faster than you should be. You know when that's happening. All right. Not necessarily.
You don't always know.
You will
Sometimes
catch yourself.
You rush it.
You'll rush it. Sometimes you'll rush it, but you'll catch yourself. You'll go back 3 parts. You'll 3-4 parts back and say, wait a minute, what was I looking at again? And you go back to just double check again, and you'll see that stat that you completely overlooked because you committed some kind of muscle memory faux pas in your brain, and you look straight over it, but it clicks a few minutes later, and you're like, let me just double check that, and you find something that you almost overlooked, and you have kind of a moment. So yeah, you're gonna have those, and you're gonna start kind of piecing that together in your brain and associating that with when you start getting into a fast rhythm like that. You're just knocking them out, going through them super quick, and then you're gonna say, wait a minute, I'm moving too fast, I need to slow down. And you're gonna catch yourself and go back, check the last few you did, be like, okay, they're good, and keep going. But yeah, you'll start to learn yourself with this process a little bit, and that definitely helps. So, are there any questions about how to put an RE project together and what you're looking for them? Does everyone understand the basics so far? It sounds like we're quiet, so I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. Yeah.
And then the sorting process is basically exactly what I was showing you. When you're in here, you've got an inventory full of loot. You're clicking them one at a time. You read the parts from top to bottom against whatever the report is on STC. Pull it up every time. Read through every stat. Make sure you know what you've got and what it could be used for. And yeah, that's the bulk of it. That's what you're going to spend most of your time doing in RE. And then,
all right, can we talk about something?
Yeah.
Okay, make sure they understand things like what is it? The Protectonet, where it has a different reverse engineering.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
hold on. There's another part. It's a certain capacitor.
Yeah, there's capacitor, shield, and reactor that are all mix matched. Cert versus re-level.
Yeah. And
Oh, you're talking about
So,
the ones that come
the
out with a
bottom
different number.
line. Yeah, the bottom line is the reverse engineering is the reverse engineering.
Yep, the reverse engineering level. That is what you need to operate on when you're doing this. I'll show you some examples here. I know exactly what he's talking about. So we got a couple. First of all, this is introducing the concept of reward parts. There was a set of missions called the NIM Star Map Quest a while back. You could run it, I think, once a week, and each phase would give you a different reward item. That's gone by the wayside because all of those parts drop in convoys now, basically. And they drop with much more frequency than you can get trying to run Star Map every week. So people don't generally do that anymore. But one thing you'll notice is if I pull up an S8 report, let's look at the bottom left here of the chat. This is an S8, 95th percentile. And you'll notice that on the side it says reward next to a few stats. Now, where's one of these? I know I've got some in here. I thought I had some in here. Okay, tell me I've got some in here. There's one. Okay. So you'll notice in here, this 2733 is way higher than what they list as the random drop value. The random drop ones are not really ever going to go much higher than 2000. But the reward goes up to 2733, and that's what gives this shield some use, because those shield values are way too low to be useful for the kind of mass that you have to dedicate to a level 8 shield. But 2733 after you RE that is pretty plausible. I think it comes out to 29 something. I forget the exact number. I'll run it through the RE tool in a second. But be aware of that, because you're going to have like those heart-skipping moments when you're sorting through your loot and you'll think you found something super good because it came up, better than a number here. Always check and make sure that you're not looking at a reward This will tell you right here, as soon as you click that, 700.9, that's right there on that reward value. And the same with the front and back shield hit points. So the 8 is a good example there. Now, what Gunther was just talking about is the level 7 shields. 7s drop in a category called Protectonets. And mainly, these are good for their front and back hit points. You'll notice this has a level 8 ship equipment certification, but it has a level 7 reverse engineering level. What these are basically doing, why these are good, is that you're getting a level 8 shield hit point value on the front or the back, potentially, which is bad for an 8, but is really good for a 7. So the fact that you can reverse engineer what's essentially a level 8 part down at level 7 means that level 7s are super viable. Even though it's an odd number, even though they're crafted level 7 shields you could potentially be contending with, you can make a better 7 shield than any shipwright can make a crafted one. Especially when you factor in that you can get the reactor drain way lower than anything a shipwright can craft. Reactor energy drain is one of the main reasons to go for reverse engineered parts, because it always
the mass.
less costs. And the mass, yeah. The mass will definitely be lighter as well.
Yeah, the mass and the drain. But the main thing is look at the bottom stat. That's the main thing. If you're going to re-engineer it, 7 is a 7.
Yep, that's right. You could not put that into an 8 project if you wanted to. The little reverse engineering tool right there, if you put parts into it that are different numbers, I think it might give you an error from the moment that you put them in there, but it'll definitely give you an error if you try to RE it with them in there. So that's my process here. Again, I went through this. I put the top 3 of these R7s in here together, so I know that my best stats are in there. I'm going to go ahead and put the trash ones in here as well. And what you can do also is double click, do not move or rearrange or play around with these when they're in here. This is more important for weapons, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you can go in here and click through, and I can see, okay, I put this one in first. It's the 497 armor and hit points. This is my 16961 mass. This is my 28957 gen rate. and my 4 garbages. And I've just gone through there and done a double check that I've put everything in there correctly. And now I could go and fire that thing if I wanted to analyze them and go ahead and finish that project. Let's see, did that cover everything, Gunther, as far as the RE level? I think that pretty much is what he was talking about. Any other questions now so far? And I'm looking on Twitch as well. If anybody's on Twitch chat, I see we got a few viewers on there. Hit me up if you got any questions or you're curious about anything we've covered so far. Happy to answer. Let's see what else I've missed here. I'm sure I've missed something.
Take a look on your channel, and I shot the stats for a Shield 7. Let me know what you think.
Oh, okay. Let me check there. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna actually move my Discord window here and just share what you sent me. All right, so we're looking at, this is a level 7 shield project that Gunther sent me, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna fill this out as I look at it. This is a good example on how to use the ship loadout tool and the RE calculator. So I'm gonna set this for level 7 shield. His armor is a 617.7. I'll go ahead and use the decimals on this one. We've got a 1651.9 on energy drain. We've got a 22,880 on mass. Wait, is that? Oh, that's the drain. My bad. I was gonna say, wait a minute, that sounds high. Let's say 14,687. That, I'm trying to think if that sounds high or not.
12 mil. So
12 mil. Oh Jesus. Okay, maybe it is lower than I thought. Or maybe there's just a really high demand on it right now. That could be possible too.
There's a big demand on reactor 6s and.
Yeah, that's been ongoing for a while. That's been going since I came back to the game. And then a recharge rate.
I gave you 2 options.
2 options. Okay, so we got a 15.75 and we got a 15.46. Let's look at the 46 first and see. Okay, so this is gonna already into a pretty decent project here. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna run the S7 command for STC. And let's look at the calculator. All right, let's line these up here. So we got a 599 baseline for armor and hit points. It's not bad. He's exceeded that. For a 95th, it only needs to be 1985 drain. What percentage were you going with for this?
98.
98. Okay, so we should actually be looking at /S7_98. And that's going to bring us up with the 98th percentile Shield 7 values. Now, some of these, one thing that's important to note is that the frequency with which some of these drop during convoys now, because convoys are so overfarmed, means that there's a lot more hits on some of the high value parts, like the protector nets, where their shield hit points and front and back shield hit points are. You're going to find the higher values on those a lot more commonly. So STC might be a little skewed from reality there, but that's what we're going to talk about next, is how to go out on the market and kind of verify what these parts are worth and what they are, how they compare as far as rarity goes. Overfarming does create more of them, or can tend to, but it still doesn't change the fact that the drop chance that they have, the chance they have of coming into being, is about the same. So we're going to still use this as our baseline anyway. And what he's got is, he's just hit above of the 98th percentile on the front and back shield values. So we're just looking to shoot above 2149. And for these, you know, when it shows them like 30, 40 points different on there, I tend to kind of shoot for an average in between there, because you're going to want them to be pretty close anyway. 14,847 for the mass. So he's actually beat that by a couple hundred points, 150 points or so. And 1649 for the drain. He's just a couple points shy of that. That's not a big deal. 608 for the armor. He's beat that. And then the shield recharge rate, 15.46. So on this, I would say definitely go for that 15.75. And let's just look at we're going to look at the baseline for a 99th percentile S7. And that's already that's a quarter point above 16 for recharge rate. So I'd say you're still well within. Can I expand this any further? I tried to make the text bigger so it's more visible, and now, yeah. Okay, so that's where you kind of, when you try to figure out where your part is going to land in the end, it's helpful to pull up the 98, the one that you're using as your baseline, and then the next one higher as well. And you can kind of gauge, all right, where does this fall between these two values? He's looking at a 15.75, so he's just up here, just over top of 98th percentile, and he's not really approaching 99th either. So he's right in that window where he wants to be. And the same is true for basically every stat here. The drain, like I said, is a couple points shy, but if he's hitting that 98th baseline and he's not like going for something that's just sub 99th, he's not trying to get it high in the 98th range as he can, I would say this is a perfect project. I think this is very well put together.
And also the shield, it doesn't have an overload, so the drain isn't as large of a factor as I could say.
That's right. Yeah. The drain is more.
Wait, what'd you say?
He was talking about the drain being different as far as so drain on weapons is super important because you have those quintupled in some cases. But the drain on shields isn't multiplied by anything. So it's just, you can get the total number down, but you're not worried about every little point on it because it's going to be multiplied down the road somewhere. So yeah, I think this is a great project. You landed everything square in the 98th bracket, except for the 2 points on drain, but that's not a huge deal. The bonus is going to take care of that, and then some.
Good.
So yeah, I think this is a good example, and it's a good example of how to do it right. You've learned a lot of stuff the hard way since you've been in the guild, and it shows. It shows you've learned what you're doing with this stuff. So well done. Has anybody else got parts that they're working on or parts that they have questions about? If not, I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is how to value the parts. How to know, you're using STC, you sorted your parts, you get something and it's in kind of a bracket that you don't really know what to expect value-wise. And I hate to say it, but there are people in the community that will take advantage of newer players that don't really have a full understanding of what they've got. So the best tool you can have in your arsenal is to be able to at least make some comparisons and ballpark what you've got. Even if you don't get an exact number, you can start to get an idea of what something should be worth to you. And from there, you have a platform on which to negotiate from an informed position. And the first tool that we're going to use is our trusty old Bazaar Terminal. This is a tool that, to this day, it seems like not a lot of people know about. It's very useful for ground stuff as well, but it is incredibly invaluable for space stuff. If we go in here, we'll do our typical vendor location, entire galaxy, and we'll look under ship components. I'm going to actually use, let me pull up Discord on my other screen again. I'm going to look up some of the parts like Gunther just sent me here. Let's say that I was putting his project together and I know that I need a shield of a 15.75 recharge rate. If I go in here and look under the shield category, I don't have to drill down any further. I can start right here on shield. I can check on this item attribute filter. And the first thing that I'm going to add in here is I'm already looking under shield. So I know I'm looking at shields. I'm going to look for the reverse engineering level. I'm looking right over it, aren't I? Yeah, there we go. You can actually search by the reverse engineering level stat, which is good in two ways. First of all, it only shows parts in the search that are usable for reverse engineering. They're ready to go. They're not already previously engineered. It's not going to show any crafted parts. If you use a search by this stat, it's only going to pull up items that have that reverse engineering stat. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to say it must have the attribute. Always check that box and add. And this box is going to be kind of a running list of every criteria that we want to add in searching for this thing. All we're looking for right now, though, is shield recharge rate. And you need to go verbatim by the stat as it appears on the item, because there are very similar ones in there. So if we look back at a shield here, we'll say shield recharge rate. We're going to look for that exact stat in this list. And go for the one that says ship component. This is another fucking stupid curveball they throw at you. They've got a shield recharge right there. That one won't work. That one won't give you any good results. This one says ship component will. I don't know. I'm not a fucking 2003 programmer that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking with that. So minimum value, we're looking for a part that's up to a certain level or higher. So we're going to give it a minimum value of 15.75. And this is going to find any RE level 7 shield with a minimum recharge rate of 15.75. Refresh that. And let's see what comes up here. Market is slow today. There we go. So you can see I've got this sorted by price. The very lowest priced one is 2.5 mil. Now it's important to think when you're looking at the market, this is stuff that people have posted at the price they want to sell it. It's not necessarily the value of the part, but it is the price that you would pay if you were to go out on the market and just search for it and go buy it because you wanted it right now. A lot of these people, you can probably, if you identify him on here like Crush Mattel, I forget who that is, but I'm pretty sure he's on Black Flag under another name. If you wanted, you could probably go and message him on there and he might cut you a deal for a little bit cheaper. People do that all the time. So if you're looking for a part out there and you see it on a vendor and you think the price is a little high, open up a dialogue with the person that posted it and see if they'd take a little less. But we can see in here, this is a 15.8. If I just go forward through the list here, that's a 16.03 for 2.9 million. 16.62 for 3 million. That actually took a major jump. That's technically over the 99th percentile limit. So, excuse me. So you'll see in here, this is 99th percentile, which means the top 1% of all parts that drop. But they're dropping frequently enough that the market is flooded with them, and they're only worth a few mil apiece. That's not true of all parts, but for a Shield 7 it is. And that's something you're going to have to develop as a feel for the market around you for different types of parts. Like Gunther was talking about, and I've mentioned before, you know, you've got reactor 5s, 6s, 4s. Those are big ticket items for some reason. Even at 95th percentile, people are willing to pay a good chunk of money for those. So, you know, they're different than a Shield 7 recharge rate. And that's just one of the little quirks of the market that you have to kind of identify and figure out. So that's always your first step if you have a stat that you're in question about, is to go look it up on the market. The only things that you can't look up on the market are shield front and back hit points and weapon max damage and capacitor energy. I believe those are the only 4 things that you can't look up. Can anybody correct me on that? I'm pretty sure that's the only thing. What's that?
That sounds correct.
Okay.
Do
So
some people preload a capacitor so the energy is correct?
what do you mean?
Like with weapon routing, they just load the capacitor to launch and let the energy go up so it can be searched, or does it reset when you land?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. I think there's a good chance of it either... maybe like if you self-destruct and respawn, you land right away before it has a chance to fully charge. That could be where you come up with a partial charge. I'm not certain. But are you saying that the search works if you're looking at the actual amount of energy that's loaded?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that could...
But I know looted, they
work.
don't have any energy, because it's based on the current energy in it, not like the capacity of energy.
Right.
So,
but that could also be really dangerous if you're talking about a pre-RE component, because if you take a shield, for example, capacitors is not an issue, but shields, we've had people lose shields because if you equip a shield in your ship, it might have dropped that loot with a really high value in one shield side, front or back, and a really low one in the other. When you load that into your ship, it is instantly going to average the two together. So any high value that was there is gone. So if you're dealing with looted parts, never put them in your ship at all. I don't know if it's a practice with anyone to like load a capacitor into a ship, but I can tell you that like for the larger suppliers, especially for maybe crafted stuff, the number of things they're having to post, it would probably be prohibitive to put it in your ship, launch, let it charge, land. You know, it would get old really fast. And I don't see a lot of people doing that probably, just for the sake of making it searchable. So that's kind of your first step, is looking through the market, if it's at all possible, to see what that range of stat is going for that level of that particular part. The other thing that's really important to do is use the community resources like Black Flag. If I go on here to Black Flag, they have a channel specifically for price checks. And before you even post something in here, search. Because you can look back at a history of, let's say we're curious about Shield 7 front hit points or front back hit points. As you look through the channel, you'll see these little kind of shorthands they use, like S6 such and such FHP. If I go through here and do like a S7 RR, it'll start from the most recent, and that's Danny right there. He's looking to sell one. It's 17.2. He was looking to sell it last week too. He's been looking to sell it for a while, apparently.
I've had it for like 2 months.
Yeah.
I'll give them
no,
50
man.
credits.
But you could even put in, like, if I put in PC S7RR, it should find all that text. So Rilla's on here from
I saw that.
Yeah, Rilla's in here from September. The price check on a 17.72 recharge rate for an S7. If we go up there, see where he listed it, and then see if anybody tagged him after that and said, let's see. I don't
That's
see a
a bad
response here.
example.
It
No.
kind of is, yeah.
Someone else had like a 17.0 or something that they price checked, and they sort of grouped it together. It was like, 70-ish for all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let's see where that was.
You could also use the Discord search, as in you can type in and
Oh, right, yeah. I should have done that. If you do in price checks. Oh, come on.
you have to do the hashtag.
Let's try it again. There we go. So you can have it just search that specific channel there. So let's look for what's a good high value one we should be looking for. Let's say A0.
I know there's been a lot of like masses and hit points for E0s lately.
Yeah. Price check A0 mass. Oh, that's not a great mass, but let's see. I don't think anybody responded to that one. PC A0 9856 mass. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. Did no one give a price check on that one either? Well, I mean, you have to kind of poke around and see. Like, if you go through here, you will see people answer up like, yeah, here's a nice simple one right here. Price check S0 3568 back HP. Quote some 5 mil.
I had to ask him there like 2 or 3 times when I price checked my engine last time.
Yeah. It depends who's around and when and stuff, but you can search for previous results there, and then any other time it's easy to just pull your part up, go to snipping tool, do a new snip, grab a screenshot, copy it, go back to Discord, paste it in there with a price check and the stat that be sure you're specific. Give it, the S7, the stat that you're looking for, what that stat is, so they don't have to go purely off of the picture. And it's helpful too, because if you or someone else comes back later and tries to search for one of these stats, it makes it just that much easier for them to find some good, relevant, current information. There have been some other projects where I know Gothic Child was trying to do a bot for a while that would automatically give you prices on a good range for like 95th to 98th percentile gear. I don't know that that's still even running, and even when it wasn't terribly accurate. There's no way around doing your own legwork on this stuff. You have to choose to make yourself informed. You have to go do the searches. You have to dig through Discord. There's no way around that. You do have to make sure if you want to be informed, you got to do it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a good step back and take a look at that for real, because that is a truth for, like, if you're going to do part re-engineering, this is a truth. You have to step back, slow down with your parts and do it right.
Exactly. If there's anything y'all take away from this, once you have the tools in hand, once you've got STC, the RE tool, Black Flag Discord, You know how to use the in-game market search. That's all you need. That's all there is to this. If you take nothing beyond that other than slow down and pay attention, then I'm going to be happy. That's all I want everybody to take away from this. Because everything else is, once you start piecing this information from these different locations together, it's going to come together for you. And especially when you go the next step and you start looking at, say, we'll go to Umbra Discord. You start looking at ship builds, you'll start to notice patterns in some of these. You'll start to say, oh, that's an RE... Well, he put RE7 right there. But if you look at these numbers, a 13-8 mass, 2300 front and back, and a 17 recharge, you already know in the back of your mind that's a 7 shield. And you'll start to put 2 and 2 together as you look at more RGI builds. You'll see ones that use 7 shields. You'll see some that do 6s. You'll see some that have 8 engines, some that have 6 engines. And it's just, you'll start to get a feel for what can fit into what build at what level. So yeah, let me think. That's okay. So we went through Space RE basics. We went through all the tools that you're going to use for that. We went through identifying what a keeper is and ways to sort it, grouping parts by their quality threshold, how to manage your projects and how to be slow and patient with them, and then determining part value and using the market. I think we've hit all the key stuff we wanted to hit tonight. Does anybody have any other questions or anything they want to show or get advice on?
Maybe touch upon rounding for weapons, such as VSS and VSA. And
oh, yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, so there's a fun trick that you can do with rounding. Let me go to... Let's see. Actually, I don't need to. I think you'll get some weapons right here. Alright, so here's how rounding works. And this is actually pretty important, especially when you get into higher end builds here. There are several stats on weapons that can be rounded if you load them into a ship first. They are the versus shield and versus armor stats and the refire rate stats. And they round depending on, well, what the numbers are. If it's a, let's say that there's a versus armor on here of 0.774. 0.774 is for sure going to round down. It's going to end up as a 0.770. This is a 0.775. This has a chance to go down or up. And it's also not terribly expensive. So if I were to go ahead and go in here and... I don't have any. Okay, well, we'll pretend I had a ship here that I could load this weapon into. I would load it into that ship and log out. And you have to stay logged out until the character is offline, not visible in the world anymore. And when you log back in...
You can use /logout.
You use /logout for it? Does that actually removes you from the world, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that'll do it as well. But once you're removed from world, you can log back in, pull that weapon out of the ship, and this is the only time I will recommend to put a piece of loot into a ship raw. When you pull it out of there, the rounding will be complete. If it has about a half a chance to go up to a 0.78 here. If this were 0.776 or higher, it would be guaranteed to go up to 0.78. So if you're sitting on, like, you're doing a 98th percentile or 95th percentile, quickie W0 project, and you want to get the best you can out of that, and you've got like a 0.776 or 777 in your inventory, take the extra minute and throw that in a ship, log out, log back in, and pull it out, because you'll have a 0.78 there. And that does make a difference when you go to actually do the reverse engineering. The bonus you get will be a little bit higher than it would otherwise. So keep that in mind with all the loot that you get. Just be mindful of what those numbers are and what you can do with them in rounding. Same thing with refire rate. We never want to round. Same with refire rate, except the opposite. We never want to round up on refire rate. But for example, if this was our 0.424, we would want to throw that in there and round it down to 0.42. That's not a good stat for a W0 anyway, but for purposes of example, that's how it works. So that is the only time that it's good to actually put raw loot in your ship, is weapons. So that's rounding for you. Anything else there, or did I cover that okay? There's actually a more detailed document, now that I think about it, on Black Flag, on rounding and I think they cover like rounding thresholds, like which specific numbers are worth rounding. Like, yes, it can be as simple as just rounding up if you want to, but they also have a full breakdown of exactly what the final stat will be depending on which rounding operation you do. So that's worth taking a look at. Let's see where that is. I know I've seen it on here.
Corin.
That's what?
I think Corin is the one that posted it.
Yeah, that sounds right. Let's see. This is the Ace Pilot guides. We've got...
I always do a search just for rounding guide. It comes right up.
You just
Oh, does it?
it's at the bottom. That long post.
Oh, is it?
It was Barrett.
Ah, there we go. Weapon rounding breakpoint guide. Okay, so he's got it pinned in there somewhere, but and then he updated that to reflect. That was one of the changes that I couldn't remember before. They made it so I think before level 8 and level 9 parts only got a 6% RE bonus, and then they made it so level 9 parts got 7% along with level 10s to try and make some of the 9s a little more attractive. I don't think it worked, but you know, they tried. But yeah, he has a document on weapon rounding breakpoints on this Google Doc, and it's pretty handy. It's worth a read through here. Let's see. Anything else? Is there anything I have missed, or anything any of y'all have run into that you think is noteworthy? Honestly,
just double check those the reverse engineering level. That Tiberian, there's a Tiberian reactor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between the reverse engineering and the level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did pretty good. I was expecting this to run a lot longer, but it's been about an hour and a half, and we've covered a lot more than, you know, the basics guides and stuff do. And I hope I presented it in a way that kind of made the quality thresholds a little clearer, because that's what people struggle with a lot of times. Anybody can take the basics of reverse engineering, throw a bunch of parts at the same level into the tool, and it makes a better part. And they take that and they run with it. But I think spending some time on the quality thresholds is really at the core of what space reverse engineering is and what makes it good. And I feel like that's not really touched on as much as it should be. So hopefully that's done that for you guys. I'll just do one final call for questions here, and then I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. And I'll pull this video off of Twitch shortly. I'll get it probably posted on YouTube, so we've got a full record of it later. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful. Anything else? Cool. I think we're good. Twitch looks quiet right now. I hope I haven't missed any messages there. This thing is theoretically working. So I will go ahead and say goodbye for right now and shut the stream off. And thanks for coming, guys.